In KPR, partnerships with families are truly valued as we work together to ensure math success for all at school and beyond. My name is Teresa Kingston, and I'm an educator in the Kawartha Pine Ridge District School Board. I'm currently in a leadership role outside of the classroom that provides me an opportunity to work with, learn from, and lead alongside kindergarten educators across the organization. And I couldn't be more excited to be here this evening on their behalf. I'm joined this evening by an educator colleague, Stephanie Mazoka, and Principal of Program, Jennifer Magamoyle Parsons. We also have an amazing team behind the scenes in Ryan Weir, who is helping to ensure that our time together runs smoothly. As we head into the session, please note that we will be addressing some of the questions you posed during the registration for this evening at the end of the session. We also invite you to reach out to your child's school if you have any questions following this webinar. As we begin this time together, we would like to respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga First Nations. We are grateful for our relationship with the First Nations of this territory, for their care for and teachings about the land, the water, and all our relations. As treaty people, we continue our journey to strengthen our understanding of our treaty relationship and of how to move forward together in a good way. We acknowledge the contributions and accomplishments of all Indigenous people across Turtle Island, current and throughout history. In Kawartha Pine Ridge, every school day begins with a land acknowledgement. This is one way that we are honoring the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I'm sharing this land acknowledgement with you today as a settler on the treaty and traditional territory of the Mississauga First Nations. We are coming to you from Peterborough and recognize that you may be joining us from Brighton, Apsley, or Curtis, and so many places in between. We are all treaty people. This acknowledgement recognizes the historical and ongoing connection of Indigenous peoples to the land and emphasizes our collective responsibility to learn, respect, and honor the wisdom and stewardship of those who have come before us and those we have the privilege of living alongside on this territory now. In KPR schools, children will hear personal connections and actions that educators, school leaders, and even other students are making as a way to honor the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Tonight, my connection to the land is in the contemplation of small moves that make a difference towards giving back to the land, as I have often taken more than I have given. These small moves include being mindful of the impacts of plastics, carbons, and industrial created materials, including food that I purchase and consume. Committing to composting to bring nutrients back to the earth. Rewilding my property so I share it with other living things. Walking when I can, reducing food waste, and buying local. And generally engaging in increased self-awareness about my place in nature and the ways I can impact the health and well-being of the planet.
Building blocks of math learning. This session will focus on the following building blocks of mathematics learning: engaging in everyday math opportunities, integrating the intentional use of math language, supporting spatial awareness, and engaging in these opportunities within the context of playful interactions. All of these skills are foundational and essential to learning about math concepts and ideas. They can be introduced and supported at home and will continue to be developed alongside educators when your child is at school. Throughout the session, we will dig into each of these areas, provide ideas and suggestions for ways you can support these skills at home, and offer specific examples of playful activities and interactions you can share with your child. Children bring with them an intuitive knowledge of mathematics that they have developed through curiosity about their physical world and through real-life experiences. The world is a mathematical place. For young children who are naturally curious, there are shapes, numbers, moving objects, and patterns to find, things to count, and investigations to be pursued. For our youngest learners, math is not just a cognitive process. It is also a social, emotional, and physical experience. Learning happens in the everyday moments. Everything you and your child do together teaches important lessons that will help them grow and learn about their world. As you talk together, they learn vocabulary. When you sing and role play action songs together, they learn about music, rhythm, and rhyme, and they're developing balance and coordination. As you read together, they develop language and listening skills and begin to recognize and read written words and enjoy books. When you build towers with blocks together, they learn about science, experimenting with I wonder questions such as how high? When you go on a neighborhood walk, use the scale at the grocery store, measure flour to make cookies, play board games, set the table, share muffins among friends, and organize the toy box together, they are learning math. They are learning that math is measuring, sorting, noticing patterns, and making comparison. It is much more than just counting and knowing the names of shapes. The goal of this session is to make math an important and routine part of every day for the whole family. Informal math learning in the bathtub, at the park, or on the bus is as important as it is stress-free and memorable. Daily experiences with math. The following are some examples of ways in which children bring to school their conceptual understandings of mathematics from their daily experiences. Manipulating objects, for example, fitting different sizes and shapes of construction toy together, fitting toys onto a shelf, sorting household items and clothing, making comparisons, for example, saying, I'm taller than you, I'm older than my baby brother, I live on the 4th floor and he lives on number 10. Making observations, like, this bag is really heavy. There are so many rocks. I have 10 fingers. There is a square on my building. We're asking questions, for example, saying, who is taller? Who has more cookies? How big is it? Or solving problems like, we can make all of these toys fit in this basket. Let's see how many steps we have. Consider the materials in your home that support building these skills. Everyday math at home. The possibilities are endless. Math is all around us in our everyday lives, but do we really notice the ways we encounter math? Throughout our time together, we want to highlight the ways we can embed math learning every day within our homes. For example, if we were to think about numbers, where do we see them at home? Where are the opportunities for measuring, counting, sorting, classifying, comparing, and identifying patterns? How many materials like a calendar invite conversations about predictability, patterns, or routines? Or how can activities like looking up the weather spark authentic connections and conversations about what to wear or the likelihood of something like rain happening in the day?
When we consider these opportunities for everyday math, we can continue to strengthen these skills by integrating math language into these conversations. The ways we use language to talk with young children about math ideas matters and can be simple, powerful way to establish strong foundations in early math. Math talk is making the math that occurs in everyday life visible for children through the use of language. For example, when putting away Lego, we might, will all of the Lego fit in this bin? Why do you think this container is the best fit? Or do you think it will fit on the shelf? Each day offers countless opportunities to help children talk about and deepen their understanding of math concepts. The more we talk math, the better the chance young children have to build a positive attitude towards math learning in general. Similarly, Math Talk enriches everyday learning experiences for young children. You'll be surprised at how much your child knows and will learn. More importantly, your Math Talk today can help your child be successful in math as they get older. You can support your child at home by engaging in conversations about math with your child as part of your everyday routines and interactions. For example, meal and bath times, neighborhood walks, and shopping trips can be ideal times. Talk about patterns and describe how things are the same or different. You can also integrate math words, ideas, and questions into informal, authentic situations. For example, you might integrate language like how many, for example, sheep are in the field, or how much candy is in the jar, or how many do you think are in the jar? And then let's check. Similarly, when comparing two or more objects, you can ask, what is the same? What is different? What do you know about a certain feature, like the way something moves or looks? Or how would you describe the way you sorted your socks? And when you're inviting problem solving and critical thinking, you might ask, is there another way, for example, to organize the laundry on the bed? Or do you know, for example, that there are 4 cookies left? As a quick tip, it can be helpful to post math language for you to refer to on the refrigerator or somewhere handy to remind you to take advantage of these powerful math talk opportunities.
Demonstrating math in the kindergarten program. In kindergarten, the following key math concepts are addressed over the 2 years of the program. These skills continue to be developed throughout your child's time at school. Number, both quantity and operation. Measurement in spatial sense. Patterning and data management and probability. This math learning guides educators in their ongoing planning, assessment, and instruction in the early years. It's integrated within whole and small group settings, as well as within the context of intentional play opportunities. The following are some ways that you can engage in everyday conversations with your child in these areas. With numbers and operations in mind, you are focusing on and understanding the concept of number, quantity, order, ways of representing amounts, and recognizing that one object corresponds to one number, which eventually leads to counting. To engage in math talk about number and operations, you can say things like, you have 2 eyes. Does your bear? Let's count. 1, 2. I have more crackers than you. See? I have 1, 2, 3, and you have 1. That's the 3rd time you've helped me today. You've helped me 3 times.
With shapes and spatial relationships in mind, you can talk about shapes, the physical relationship between yourself and other objects, and also make comparisons between objects. For example, when talking about shapes, sizes, and locations of objects around your house or neighborhood, try using descriptive words like tiny, small, big, round, diamond, over, under, or beside. Children will pick up on this new language and deepen their spatial awareness skills. You can also integrate language to support shape and spatial learning by saying things like, look, Saphir went under the climber and Aaliyah is on top. You're sitting next to or beside the window. Some of the crackers today are square and some are round.
Measurement involves lots of language that describes size, weight, quantity, volume, and time. You can integrate language to support measurement learning by saying things like, moving that chair is hard. It's heavy. You had a short nap today. Let's count how many steps it takes to reach the mailbox.
You can also support your child's understanding of patterns and change by talking about relationships that make up a pattern and/or noticing and creating repetitions of objects, events, colors, lines, textures, and sounds. Understanding that things change over time and that change can be described with math words establishes the basic building blocks of algebra. You can integrate language to support learning about patterns by saying things like, Mummy has stripes on her shirt. Look, white, blue, white, blue, white, blue. Let's clap to the beat of the song. Or, our bean plant looks taller today. I think it grew overnight.
And finally, you can support your child's learning about data collection by gathering, sorting, classifying, and analyzing information to help make sense of what is happening in the environment. To support learning about data collection, you can say things like, let's put the big lids on the big bowl and the small lid on the small bowl. You always smile when we go to the park. Or let's put the Lego in the basket and the blocks in the bin. All of these opportunities support learning about math concepts and ideas in meaningful and authentic ways, offering your child solid foundations for future math learning and conversations.
Here's a specific example of a way you can build math talk with your child at home. Set up a dramatic play opportunity where your child makes fruit kebabs with two different types of fruit, either real fruit or imaginary fruit using blocks, Lego, or Play-Doh. Tell your child that fruit kebabs always have 5 pieces of fruit and ask them how many different kebabs can they make. You'll quickly see your child engage in number play as they make one kebab with 4 strawberries and 1 banana, or another kebab with 3 bananas and 2 strawberries. Invite siblings or friends to order or make fruit kebabs as part of an imaginary store. After many different fruit kebabs have been made, ask your child which one has more strawberries or bananas, or is there another way that we could make a different fruit kebab? This playful opportunity invites your child to engage in rich mathematical language about more and less, quantities or amounts, and problem solving. It welcomes them to build math learning with others in a way that enriches their understanding of 5 and how it can be composed or put together or decomposed, taken apart in a variety of ways.
Furthermore, Math Before Bed is an online resource for families that is intended to support math talk at home. Similar to a book that you would read to your child before bed, this website offers a series of picture prompts for your child and you to think and talk about math together. It's amazing to hear the connections students are making to math ideas as they engage in these everyday pictures and prompts. And it's an excellent resource to support families anytime when engaging in math talk at home.
In addition to integrating math language at home, families can also support their child's spatial awareness skills, which reinforces all areas of your child's math learning and growth. Spatial awareness involves the location and movement of objects and ourselves, either mentally or physically in space. It's the interpretation of how things, including ourselves, relate to each other and our spatial environment. We engage spatially with our world all the time, from babies reaching for a toy to adults calculating how much paper is needed to wrap a present. We use it every day to navigate in and around our environment, to identify, manipulate, and maneuver objects, as well as to communicate and make sense of visual images, maps, and diagrams. Children are reinforcing their spatial awareness skills when they use toys like open-ended building blocks or crawl around in forts. Spatial awareness is developed through physical development and has strong links to communication and language from birth.
Ways to support at home. There are many games and activities that can support your child's growing spatial skills, like creating forts, building with Legos, blocks or boxes, obstacle courses, and puzzles, to name a few. These ways of playful math learning are also great ways of supporting social skill development with following the rules of a game, turn taking, and working through the big emotions when winning and losing a game. We can also support spatial awareness skills through other activities like getting dressed, eating with utensils, setting the table for a meal, riding a bicycle, dancing together, and making crafts that involve drawing, cutting, and pasting.
Spatial concepts in everyday interactions. Problem solving is at the heart of mathematics, and children should be encouraged to use their creativity to explore and play. We can look for math opportunities that engage your child in math conversations and language that support spatial concepts during daily activities like playing on the playground and talking about going up the stairs and down the slide, comparing objects like a big box or a small box, and whether a cat could fit in a box or not. Or talking about left and right when supporting your child in knowing what foot to place in their shoes. Similarly, using language like first, next, then, and last can also support self-regulation, routines, and early literacy skills. It also supports students in seeing and hearing how math is connected within our world. We also want to offer students opportunities to understand numbers spatially using physical materials, rather than only seeing number as a symbol. For example, when we engage in opportunities to support number, encourage your child to engage in conversations and thinking about concepts like more, less, and the same by comparing sets of objects and determining how much or how many. These physical and visual opportunities will strengthen your child's understanding of quantity and how numbers work when considering them in meaningful settings and situations. For example, using a 10 frame that you can see on the screen with the 6 blue dots can support students in seeing number and also develops an understanding that 6 is one more than 5. A 10 frame is a math tool used for counting and understanding numbers and reinforcing the importance of 5 and 10 in the number system. Over time, students will learn to subitize, which is the ability to quickly recognize the number of objects in a set without counting. This skill can often be observed and reinforced when playing board games and watching as your child instantly identifies the numbers of dots on a die or domino rather than counting each dot one at a time. Considering the number of items and determining whether there is more or less can all be fun examples of ways that you can engage in math learning that supports spatial awareness and number skills.
Story time can be an engaging way to develop mathematical thinking, problem solving, and spatial awareness skills. For example, Lucy in the City, a story about developing spatial thinking skills, is a picture book about a young raccoon who becomes separated from her family one night and has to find her way home. With the help of a friendly owl and his bird's eye view, Lucy navigates her way through the city, retracing her steps using smells, sights, and sounds. This story focuses on developing spatial thinking skills in the context of understanding the world around us and using concepts of space for problem solving. Other ways we can highlight math in this story are through solving a problem like a family of 5 raccoons leave their cozy den to find food in the garbage bin. One raccoon does not return with the others. How many raccoons return to the den? Or at the movie theater, Lucy gets 4 pieces of candy stuck to her tail and 3 pieces of candy stuck to her paws. How many pieces of candy are stuck to Lucy? These types of problems use the story as a springboard into new learning and thinking about math, in this case, early addition and subtraction concepts. Another example that supports both spatial awareness and early number concepts is a game called Hidden Counters. When playing this game, all you need is a cup and a handful of 5 to 10 counters. Place a specific number of counters in front of your child, count them together, and ask them to cover their eyes as you hide some counters under the cup. When they open their eyes, ask them how many counters are under the cup. Once they have guessed, lift up the cup to see if they had the same amount of counters as they predicted. Play the game again with the same or new number and let your child have a turn hiding the counters too. It's worth noting that this game has been featured in this year's Welcome to Kindergarten bags for all new KPR families to enjoy at home.
And finally, all of these strategies, suggestions, and ideas can be done within playful interactions that support your child's math learning in meaningful ways. Students are more likely to remember and really understand what they learn if they find it compelling or have some part in figuring it out or discovering some part of it for themselves. Dr. Marion Small is a Canadian educator, researcher, and author who is internationally known for her work in the area of math education. The following short clip offers families practical ideas and advice on how to support these playful interactions at home.
When you're interacting with your kids with math, be casual, not serious. When you get to let's sit down and do your math, I think it puts a wall up. My whole life is about casual is the way to go. So I think intentional but casual. So I explain to parents that you're kind of making it fun and not something to worry about, but at the same time, you're pretty intentional about what you're doing. I asked a group of parents the other night, I said, one of the things I'd say to kids is, if you're in a house, how many steps do you think it takes to get from the first floor to the basement? Do you think it'll be the same in everybody's house? Everybody wants to know now, and everybody's going to go home and count their steps. So I chat with them about, you make it like curious stuff. If you open a Smarties box, do you think it's going to be more like 20 or more like 40 Smarties in that box? Sometimes it's games. Sometimes it's you're chatting about it. Sometimes I'll talk to them about how you pique their curiosity about things like, I read that all oranges have the same number of sections. It doesn't matter if they're little, it doesn't matter if they're big. I think they all have the same number of sections. What do you think? So I think the message for parents is that there is no single right way to do anything. Are these things important? The answer is yes. Your job is to take your cues from your kid to decide what's the right way to do it, and not to feel there's only one way, the way you learned.
As we heard from Dr. Small, finding short, powerful moments to engage in meaningful math with your child can strengthen their reasoning, application, and problem-solving skills. Not to mention, it's just pure fun when we can engage in playful, interactive opportunities with our child each and every day. To conclude our time together, we would like to address some of the questions posed during the registration for this session. First, how can I help my child write numbers correctly? And how do I introduce addition and subtraction? This first group of questions speaks to specific skills that families would like to support at home, namely writing numbers and early addition and subtraction. In response to the first question, it's worth noting that while writing numbers will be an important skill to communicate math learning as your child grows and develops in mathematics, there are other early number concepts that can have greater impact on your child's development, such as having conversations about more, less, and the same when looking at collections or sets of items, and considering the ways these collections can be broken apart or put back together to support relationships between their amounts. This idea of breaking a group of items apart in different ways, for example, how many different ways can we break apart a set of 5 or 10 objects? Or putting groups of an item together to make an amount. For example, I have 2 Lego pieces in this group and 3 Lego pieces in another group. How many Lego pieces do I have? This forms the foundation for early addition and subtraction. It's worth noting again that the more physical and visual the opportunities and interactions with numbers and amounts, the greater the understanding and foundation.
The second group of questions asked, what apps and/or websites can support these strong foundations and foster a love of learning about math at home? In response, there are a number of web-based apps and resources that can support your child's growing math learning and development at home, some of which are featured on the screen right now. All of these apps are Canadian-based and support the most important criteria to consider when selecting an app. It supports the development of math concepts through the use of visual or even better physical representations like counters, sets, objects, items that allow your child to see numbers spatially rather than numeric representations like the number 3 as a symbol without any visuals. After this session, we will send out an email with direct links to all of these suggestions. We will also offer you a link to a resource that supports spatializing math at home with your child that was designed by a team of kindergarten educators in KPR alongside researchers at Queen's University to support families in building math at home.
And with that, this concludes our session this evening. We hope you are leaving with new information, suggestions, and specific examples of ways to support your child in math learning at home. For additional information about kindergarten in KPR, we invite you to explore the board website where you will find a wealth of information and links to support your family's transition to school, including the recordings from our previous virtual kindergarten sessions. Thank you once again for your time and partnership this evening. We look forward to continuing these conversations in any way we can within our KPR schools. Please do not hesitate to reach out to your child's school if you have any questions following this webinar. All the very best and have a wonderful evening.